We live in a world where what was once considered science fiction has quickly become all too real. Aerial drone technology has boomed worldwide, and now South Australia Police is looking to purchase its first drone surveillance fleet. But legislation regarding drones and privacy is 15 years behind the times. The 1998 Privacy Act does not cover the individual use of drones, nor is it clear what constraints police would face when using new drone technology. The President of the Australian Council for Civil Liberties, Terry O'Gorman, calls for adequate legislation regulating the police use of drones.
We say that the law enforcement use of drones should be regulated by a standalone Act of Parliament that gives police particularly sufficient power to use drones, but has protections against abuse and has particularly protections in favour of privacy.
This, Terry O'Gorman says, is especially the case before South Australia launches its first drone fleet.
We say with drone technology, the abuses are so easily carried out, particularly abuses of privacy, that whatever the first state is that introduced drones, and if it's South Australia, then so be it. Let South Australia lead the country and say to the police, no, you won't be able to buy these drones until an Act of Parliament is passed to ensure that abuse is contained right from the outset.
Dr. Robert Sparrow from the Centre for Human Bioethics says police drone surveillance will amount to a big brother in the sky that will feed permanent suspicion in society. In future, he says, we can expect any protest to be manned with police drone surveillance.
And I think that assumption that ordinary citizens are potential criminals or potential terrorists, I think that's a dangerous change in the political relations between state and citizen.
But according to Neil James, the Executive Director of the Australian Defence Association, the privacy impacts of domestic drones are no different than any other form of surveillance like CCTV footage.
There are obvious privacy hazards, but they're no different to any other form of surveillance technology, and they'll have to be coped with in the same way by legislation.
Neil James says drones will not only be used for law enforcement, but also for immigration purposes. Both sides of federal politics have expressed interest in long-range maritime drones. The coalition has pledged $1.5 billion to unarmed surveillance drones to halt the flow of asylum seeker boats within the next 4 to 5 years. Here's Neil James from the Australian Defence Association again.
In terms of the broad area ocean surveillance, it really doesn't matter which side of politics is in power, because it's not driven essentially by politics and ideology. It's driven by the capabilities needed to do the job.
But Dr. Robert Sparrow says drones will only add to the increased militarisation of Australia's immigration policy.
Part of the sort of moral panic about people arriving by boat, we'll see an increasing militarisation of the oceans through surveillance technologies, including drones.